A lot of these fallacies are very much related, these particular ones. I added at the end an 11th one, just since it kind of negates that whole Ten Commandments thing, which I'm not very keen on. But it also then adds that there's such a thing known as the fallacy, that people can try and discredit your argument by pointing out that you used a fallacy, so therefore everything that else you said was utterly incorrect because you used a fallacious argument. You know, and that's something that goes on a lot. Like, you see that all the time on the internet with people who are very much into thinking in terms of fallacy, and you really see that a lot with people of a rigid, skeptical nature, where they you know, will not talk. They won't say a word about the evidence you're presenting. They'll just be like, "Well, you used a fallacious argument here and here, therefore, no." And you know, it's a situational thing. That can be the case, because someone, if someone uses a fallacy in a very critical part of their argument, then that fallacy can in fact make the whole argument incorrect. But it doesn't usually work that way. It's usually just, as I said before, that they're phrasing it wrong. They're trying to use rhetoric to make their point, rather than presenting facts and letting those facts speak for themselves. You know, that kind of gets back into confirmation bias, as far as that's their confirmation bias coming out, and they may not even be aware of that. They may think they're presenting, you know, a straightforward body of evidence with good logic, and then they do so, and it, you know, comes out that they're using a fallacy to sort of confirm their own bias, and haven't really thought it through sufficiently to present an argument for whatever it is they're trying to present it for. And another fallacy that is so common, and is something that is really important to be aware of, is the appeal to authority. And there's a fancy Latin name for that, but that's not really the point. The point is that it's so common in the grammar lecture. I really was talking about that quite a bit because of the notes that I provided for you about research. That's something that's just rife with the appeal to authority, that you know, because it's an authority, then it's worth citing in your research paper, because that's a valid authority, so you can just sort of piggyback on their authority without presenting a valid argument. And that's common. You know, you hear that all the time. Like, a good example of that is like the whole climate change debate. You know, you hear people denying that, and people completely endorsing that theory based on the appeal to authority. Well, this climate scientist says this, and this climate scientist says that, and you know, this person says that, and this person says that, and you know, they all have letters at the end of their name, so that means that therefore that you know, that evidence is in fact correct. And it's just come out in so many different ways, in both ways, you know. And I mean, I think that's a really good example of where an argument is created to sort of cover up the basic idea that humans should probably pollute their home planet a little less than they have been. Or, hopefully a lot less, but, a little less would be a good start. So then it's made into this whole big thing because, it because of the structures in place and how much it would, it would cost and the slippery slope of, environmentalism that because, and this is something that was very much came out of the whole environmental movement of the 1970s when most of the actual legislation was passed because of huge popular movements of people getting together and organizing and saying, this needs to stop. And it was out of that this whole sort of climate change debate has been born, that it's now, it's not about just that basic premise of less pollution would probably be good from, massive bodies of evidence indicating that, into this whole thing of, arguing about the weather, is the earth going to be hotter in the future, or is it going to be colder, or is it going to, and just this whole false debate about the whole damn thing when regardless of all of that, less pollution probably a good thing, and industries and all human industry pretty much should probably try to pollute as little as possible while being industrious and creating their products. So it's all kind of simple when you think of it in terms of Trivium method and just that kind of basic reasoning, as opposed to really complex systems of thought and formal logic and all of that. Like it turns into this thing which is not what reason and logic is really meant to be, which is a very simple thing that can be applied by anyone in any situation to help them find truth. And that's really where it's at. I don't think that I'm gonna really get into going through these fallacies one by one. It's there for you to read. It's there in class if you're interested in digging into that more deeply. And I think that pretty much sums it up. So thank you very much for listening. And peace to you.